Time is X minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
It's the Rocket Hour. Y'all are now tuned in. Time to hit the pick four that you'd love to win. If your money's coming slow, step on the faster track with your host, Ricky Pasternak. Let's go.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to the Rocket Hour. It's another week, but we only have one show this week, Ricky. So we're gonna go all out. We have one show. It's gonna be Belmont Park today, the late pick four. Friday, you and I are both traveling, so we gotta make this one a winner.
Yeah, we actually found out we might actually be in Boston together. Well, separately but together. Yeah, that's where I'm gonna be heading this weekend. It's a travel day for us tomorrow. Yesterday, I don't want to say didn't count, but there wasn't a ton of action. So, yeah, we really only have one this week, but then we'll be back to 3 next week. So don't be alarmed, but we do need to make this one count.
Yeah, traveling. You're going to Boston. I'm heading towards Plattsburgh, New York. I'm not sure where the wife and I will end up. We're going to take our time going up there. We're going to take a little adventure on the way. So we'll see. We'll see where we're at. Who knows? We may run into Mr. Pasternak. I don't know. We're gonna try to avoid him as much as possible, but we may run into him, so we'll see what happens. All right, Ricky, let's not mess around. Like I said, we got one show this week. We got to make it count. We're going to Belmont Park today. Like I said, 6, 7, 8, and 9. That makes up the late pick four today at Belmont. We'll kick it off with race 6, and boy, we've been talking about a lot of two-year-old races on this show. We'll kick it off here. Maiden special weight, going 6.5 furlongs. For the 2-year-olds, field of 8 here, Ricky. Where are we going?
Yeah, so this is interesting, just from the standpoint of the horses that we used, and it's not even why. We'll kind of dive into it, but I think it's how we got to this conclusion. We both are on the 3 and the 8. One of the Chad Brown horses. I'll talk about the Fletcher horse that you didn't use, and that's Mo Donegal, Javier Castellano, $250,000 purchase. There's really not much to add. Obviously, the Uncle Mo factor, the pedigree is there. The purchase price is there to some degree. He stands for $175,000. To only go for $250 is an overwhelming, over resounding type of statement, but it's solid. It's not bad to ever pay $250,000 for a horse. Todd Fletcher has done everything right. He's been the opposite of Chad Brown. Chad Brown's really slowed down since Saratoga. I'm sure he'll pick it up. And I'm sure Todd Fletcher will slow down at some point because I don't think 35% win percentage is quite sustainable. If he does, it would be the best meet ever in the history of Belmont. But yeah, he just makes sense. I mean, it's kind of interesting that you're using the other Chad Brown and not the Todd Fletcher. I see why we're both on the 3, but you're using the Todd Fletcher at the bottom, the Into Mischief one for Windstar Farm. So I could have used this horse to make it $48, the 2 horse that you're not using, and maybe you'll talk me into that one. But I guess, since we're both using the 3 and 8, I'll just ask you the question, why do you go with the 2 over the 1? Again, they're all Chad Brown and Todd Fletcher horses, so we're on the same page. But did you really have a big reason, or do you just have a gut feeling?
Well, first of all, 1, 2, 3, and 8 were the 4 I have in the top 4. And so what I ended up doing today was I'm going to go deep in that final leg. I was really confused by the final leg, so I thought this is the most likely race that I can cut from. I didn't want to cut from the 8th race, so and I have a single in the 7th, so I thought, well, I'll cut one from this one, kind of make the ticket a little more affordable. Why I chose the 2 over the 1, because that is what it came down to, Ricky. I had the 3 and the 8. I had 8 first, 3 second, and then it came down between the 2 and the 1. Rider. That's basically for me. Joel Rosario, I'll take him over Javier Castellano. That's what it came down to for me. The breeding on both these horses are pretty good. The ownership groups are pretty good. But I just trust Joel Rosario right now a little bit more than Javier Castellano. You look at the workout patterns for both these horses. I can see that drill 2 back for the 1, and you think, okay, that horse can run a little bit. But in my opinion, if the 1 was pretty good, they wouldn't have entered the 8. And that's the other thing. If the 8 was like a superstar, I don't know why they entered the 1. So that kind of threw me off. So I didn't really want to go short here. I thought 3 deep was the right play, and I just trusted Rosario a little bit more than Javier Castellano.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? I've never subscribed to the 2-horse theory at the maiden special weight or 3-horse theory potentially. It's just because you don't really know what you're getting anyway. It's not like the stakes action where you have like a 10-1 and a 5-2. I'm just making up odds. It's like, all right, well, the 10-1 really has a shot, or you might feel like that stake spot is special, or you might not get that again. You have 6.5 going on the dirt. It's not New York bred. So it's not like you can't find this spot again. This is probably one of your more likely spots. I'm sure between the two of us, between Aaron and myself, we could find this spot, I'm guessing 5 times between this card and through Sunday. I know Sunday's card's not out, but I'm sure we could find it because it pops up all over the place, especially on Saturday. I'm really considering throwing this 2 in there just so I have my bases covered. Again, I didn't really go deep in the last one, and you went really deep, so we'll get to that at the end. I have the right to keep this ticket for now, but if I might enter the 2 as well. Did you consider, before we move on, did you consider the 7 at all? And the 7 is Pistol or Shotgun. Belmont debuted the Sunby Tourist, made an optional claiming at Delaware Park. Now, I know it's not the best race of all time, but there's some experience there. It did run well. Did you consider it all, or do you just think he's just not going to be good enough to even compete with these debutantes?
It's an interesting entry. First time for Mott is interesting, but no, I don't like the 7 at all here. I just think there's going to be better horses in this race. I look at this horse, the horse is by tourists, so you automatically think turf, immediately when you think about that. So I don't know. I didn't like this horse very well at all. To kind of round back on the 3, this horse was bet on debut down to 7-2 in a pretty good maiden special weight at Saratoga, and didn't run very well. But 2 of the 4 horses that beat Triple Elvis that day have come back to win, including Major General, who won a stakes at Saratoga, or at the Churchill Downs. I'm sorry. So that's something that, that this was a horse that was supposed to run well that day. Maybe didn't do as well as what you thought, got off a little bit slow and just didn't get his feet under him. If you're going to go too deep, I think the 3 and the 8 are the 2 that make the most sense. And I think you can kind of ignore that 1 and 2 because I do think the 3 is going to run a lot better. But, it's just interesting that I don't know. I don't subscribe to the same theory as you. I get kind of weirded out when they enter 2 horses in a maiden special weight still when they're Todd Fletcher and Chad Brown.
Oh, I get weirded out. I just don't subscribe to the theory. Like, okay. if that makes any sense. Like, I'm confused by it also. And I don't. How can you not? I mean, I'm not jealous or envious of a morning line odds maker, in this case David Aragona, because to be quite honest with you, if we looked at this race not come Breeders' Cup time, by next January, February, March, some of these horses we're going to say, for example, I'm just picking the 2 because he's a first time starter. You could pick the 1, the 2 at not. It will be like this horse was 9-2 on the morning line. This horse may never win, and then you're going to have a horse like, I don't know, a Jonathan Thomas horse who. Not Jonathan Thomas. The 5, excuse me, at 10-1, big. Whoa, that was a steal. It's just really, really hard to make true maiden special weight races. I mean, and make odds for them. That's why I'm considering throwing this 2 in there just to cover my bases. But yeah, I'm not envious of a morning line odds maker when you have 2 Todd Fletchers, 2 Chad Browns, a Jonathan Thomas, and a Bill Mott with experience. I mean. It's really, really tough. again, I'm going to reserve the right to change my ticket. Are you completely steadfast before we move on? Are you completely steadfast on the 3 you're using, or are you open up for any interpretation as we move forward?
Well, you're going to have to do some convincing. If you convince me, maybe I'll change it. But
Well,
as of now, I feel pretty confident in it. Yeah.
well, it's hard to convince. I don't know if I've ever convinced you to change a ticket. You've convinced me a few times. We've done 118 of the Rocket Hours. This is 118. Now, some have been recapped, so let's just call it 110 for the sake of the conversation. You've convinced me probably on a handful, like 5 to 7. I don't know if I've ever convinced you, and I can't hear because they're first-time starters. There's not a horse that I'm in love with. We'll see, though. Maybe I can convince you somewhere else along the way, and I think it's a good segue as we move on to race. Are there any comments? By the way, I'm not looking. Are there any comments you want to discuss?
Just to comment on a scratched horse, so we can definitely move on because the 4 is scratched, and that was an interesting horse. Dennis, we'll see if that horse comes back and where it ends up. So, all right, let's go on to race 7. We're gonna go allowance race this time around, 6.5 furlongs for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and upward. Solid horse here, in my opinion, with the 2. I think this horse is going to be awfully tough to beat. I singled the 2, but you have 2, 6, and 7, so I'll let you go through your horses first.
Yeah, first of all, I didn't think it made a lot of sense to go short in this race, and here's why. I know the layoff thing it's always a concern for me when it's this much of a layoff. Now, that's if you want to put it into the hands of the trainer, I can't argue that point. And by the trainer here, I mean Chad Brown. If you want to say, well, Chad Brown, X, Y, and Z off the layoff is 148%. I couldn't argue with that. But there's still something to be said for not having run in a year. And it's not a year like a Mo Forza. I don't think Mo Forza won a year. But, horses that have or a Monomoy girl, I know she's not running anymore, but, a horse of that caliber, when it's okay, she knows what she's doing. This was a maiden special weight race. And she just kind of drew off. And I remember marking down, I had to go all the way back because I wanted to look at if any of those horses did anything. And I didn't mark anything down from a result standpoint, but what I did mark down was turf ? So when I saw this spot come up and I saw this horse, this filly by Malibu Moon, I was like, I wonder if we're going to see her on the turf. And we didn't. Now that debut was on the dirt, so it makes sense here. I just didn't feel strong enough, and I'll let you talk about it. I thought the 6 was interesting, just kind of getting better. If the 2 is just an allowance horse, and we'll find out, the 6 can win. If the 2 is a real stakes horse that's going to get better as a 4-year-old, maybe even a 5-year-old, the 6 has no shot. I'll be quite honest. The 7, do we know what she is over a fast main track? I sure as heck don't. And that's kind of where I am. I just have question marks about the 6 and the 7 in terms of what their ceiling is. I have a question mark about the 2 of what her ceiling is. I get the single completely, but I just want it to be a little bit safer. I don't know how good the 6 really is. She seems to be getting better. If we start back on her debut at Tampa and just walk through this real quick, maiden special weight, okay, she finishes 2nd, no big deal. Then goes over a muddy field, then turf, sloppy, wins there, gets a good track, not fast, but good, and runs off the screen there. If the 2 is not up to her best form, I think she actually has a shot. And she has shown speed in her last 2 as well. So I just thought that was an interesting play, showing some speed there. I wanted to get a price on there as well.
Yeah, so with the 2, and obviously it's been a year, so it doesn't mean quite as much, but 4 out of the 5 horses that she beat have come back to win. A couple of them come back to win multiple times. So to that point, and again, it doesn't mean near as much when it's been, let's say 3 months compared to 12 months, but still it is something to say. The horse looks like the lone speed to me. The only other horse that has speed in the race that I see is the 6, and it's a filly coming out of lesser races into a tougher spot. And usually horses that have speed in those lesser races, they don't really show it quite as much here. They get outran a little bit when they move up in class. So that's why I thought the 2 was would just be very tough. Gets loose on the lead, as a trainer that's hitting at 39% in the last year off these kinds of layoffs. I know you said you didn't care about that, Ricky, but I have to throw it in there because Chad Brown hits at 20 to 24% in pretty much all categories. And then off layoffs, he hits even better, which is really quite unbelievable. That shows a lot about whatever he's doing to get these horses ready off layoffs is pretty exceptional. I just think if she shows up, she wins. The biggest reason for the single, besides the lone speed factor, and you kind of touched on it, even these horses that you use, you're not real sure what they are. And that's what I looked at the rest of this field and thought, wow, this 2-horse has caught an allowance field at Belmont here. It's not as good as what you usually see at this track. And so that was the other main reason. I just think if the horse shows up, she wins, and she kind of gallops around there, kind of like she did with her maiden, and I don't think she's challenged much. So that's why I went with the single there. I am interested in your 6. With the 6, I mean, do you think this horse can run with the 2 early?
I can, and for a few different angles. First of all, it's funny that I'm not banging on Chad Brown with the layoff, because I would say that about anyone not having run in a year. Right. I don't care who the trainer is. We just don't know what the fitness level is. She won 6 furlongs on debut, and now she's going 6.5, so that's not really a concern. But the 6 did run 6.5 furlongs. The first quarter was 21-3. Now, it's certainly possible that 2 can run 21-3 and draw away, but we don't have evidence of that. The 2 went 22-2. Again, she might be able to. I don't have evidence, though, unless someone can tell me that they were at the track and they ran a race by themselves and it was like in the morning. I don't have any evidence of that. The other thing is this seems to be the 6 just seems to be in form. Now, what I will say, I really wish Jose Ortiz was aboard, just because Johnny Velasquez, a little more patient. Likes to get his horses going a little bit, kind of not hit the accelerate, right out of the gate, but kind of slowly, gradually move his way up. I don't think that's going to be good enough for her. If she does that, the 2 will outkick her, and I don't know what the 6 would be able to do if she's not on the lead, because we have evidence of the 6 not running well if she's not on the lead. The 7 is the interesting one to me, just because we've seen her sit off. She won on debut sitting off over a muddy field. It was still an 8-horse race, 5 wide and geared down. They went 22-2 in that race. Muddy races are always interesting because sometimes on certain days the speed just holds up because no one can kick, or the mud really, really wears down horses. I think she got the benefit, I'll be honest. I think she got the benefit of horses going 7 furlongs that got pushed very, very quickly. If you're 8.5 lengths off and you win by 6.5 lengths, it kind of tells me everyone else pretty much fell down ahead of her. But we don't know what she is over a fast main track, and she's shown the ability to at least sit off. If the 2 and 6 go at it, she's right there. I want to talk about the 1, the 3, and the 8 a little bit. I guess we can talk about the 5 as well if you were interested. Did you did you consider the 1, 3, or the 8? Because I still thought these were interesting horses to at least discuss.
So the 8, and this is, I don't know why Samich is commenting under Racing Dudes, but this is Samich's comment. Okay, the 8 here, that's who I put in second. Spa Ready's who I put in second. Last time out, off a layoff at Monmouth, got second, beating a length and 3/4. If I was going to go too deep, I would put this horse in there. So I have the 8. I like Spa Ready here a little bit. Also, I used the 1 in 4th. So I have the 1 underneath. And I think if you look at the past performances, you see why. The horse seems to finish underneath, clunk up for 3rd, sometimes 2nd, over and over and over. So I did use the 1 underneath.
Yeah. So, okay. So you used I shouldn't say used, you singled, but you would have used the 1 or the 8 more than my horses. I'll kind of break them down a touch. The 1, I don't know how much of a move she really, really makes. And what I mean by that, not in terms of position, because we just look at the last few races. Let's look at her last three, which were under Charlie Baker. The races before that were Mercan, Kenter Macy. 3 races at the allowance level, which is this level. They're all for the same condition. The only difference is Saratoga, you get a purse bump. So that's really the only difference. Same condition, same sort of language. 5th by 3 early on, finishes 3rd by 1 3/4. The race prior to 6th by 2.5, finishes 4th by 13 3/4. That was almost a 23-second first quarter. And in the race here at Belmont, 6 by 8.5, 2 by 6.5. I think we get into a dangerous path for the 1. I'm not going to go into too deep about the 3 and the 8. I just thought those were horses that maybe you wanted to talk about or were interesting. Just because the position improves doesn't necessarily mean much to me. You know, like I look more at lengths personally. That's just me. If you're making up ground and you don't necessarily pass, I'd rather you make up the length because it shows at the end of the day, the goal is to win the race, at least the way we're playing it right now. It's not to finish 2nd, 3rd, or 4th. So what that means, I'd rather make up the distance as opposed to the actual position. I don't know if she's really going to make a move, and she hasn't shown she can close. I know the 7 can. I thought the horse was interesting. I don't think she's horrible. I just thought she was a little interesting there. And the 8, I don't know why the 8 is 10-1. I'm extremely afraid of the 8 at that price, not in that 5-1 range. I would take the 8 over the 1 if you just ask me heads up. But figure we talk about a few more before we moved on.
All right, let's move on to race number 8 now as we'll move on to the turf. We're back on the turf, Ricky. And we have an allowance here on the turf going 6 furlongs for 3-year-olds and upward. The 3 and 6 are main track only entries, so they will not run here. Thankfully, as we're on the turf today. I know we had problems last week with that. Before you get going, we had a comment from our Stephanie. Says absolutely loves Perfect Munnings today in race 8. That is the 1 horse. Well, thankfully we both have this one on our ticket, Ricky. So I'll let you kick us off here. Looks like you're 4 deep and I'm 4 deep.
Do you want to talk about Perfect Munnings or do you want me to talk about Perfect Munnings?
You do whatever you want. It's totally up to you.
Oh, that's very nice of you.
You're very welcome.
So I'll just talk about, I'll split it in half. I'll let you talk about the 10 and I'll talk about the 1, 5, and 11. So we'll
Can't
split
wait.
there.
Can't wait.
Perfect Munnings is is one of these horses that I just absolutely love. And here's why. Outside of the 1 race going a mile, which is the Gander Stakes, I'd never heard of it, to be quite honest with you. But I saw that. I had to watch that race. I didn't watch any others of his. But I said, I want to watch this one because this was a mile. And I was curious as to why Todd Fletcher would do that after a 6 on the turf and then 6.5 in the Rego Park. I was like, this doesn't really make sense. It seems the shorter this horse goes, the better. We only saw 1 turf start, and by the Munnings pedigree, you expect more turf races. Now I get the dirt races popped up as stakes, but even the last time out, just going 7, this horse seems to be a freak when going shorter. It doesn't really matter the surface. I mean, that was an impressive, Aaron really introduced this theory to me and to other people listening. If you're winning by 2 lengths on the turf, it's a lot more impressive than 2 lengths on the dirt. I would say it's closer to, I always like to double the distance, to be quite honest with you. So if it's like 2, then you go to like 4, something like that. Like it's very impressive to win by that much in a turf sprint. I think this horse makes a lot of sense. Luis Saez obviously helps as well when he was just a bore. The 5 Christopher was interesting too. This horse just seems to be in form right now. I really, really liked his races at Saratoga. The race on the dirt wasn't great, but the 2 turf races were very, very good. Has shown an ability to come off the pace in the starter allowance race, finishing first by over 4 lengths, at a price almost 11-1. Then it followed it up in an allowance race against a tougher group, finished 2nd by a head. So we've seen this horse show the ability to run either way in his last 2 turf races, much better than his turf races prior to. Maybe sprinting is what he needs. And then the other one, I'll skip Digital Future because I'll let you talk about that one. Shiraz, I'll be honest. I just can't let go of this horse. He's one of those that I always put on tickets. If it was for a win bet, I don't think I would use Shiraz. I just can't get over it because I have that race over a yielding turf course 3 starts back. I don't know. I just can't get over. I'm looking at that race and I'm always going to hold close to it. He runs just well enough where I think he always deserves consideration at this level. Like you move him up, he doesn't. If you move him down, he's going to be a huge favorite. The race last time out at Kentucky Downs, Aaron and I talked about it. I don't know what you do with those. To me, they're all crossouts unless you're running in a grade 1 or a stakes race. To me, they're crossouts. The race before that, tossed his head at the break going 5.5. That's not going to help. And then a legitimate 6 wide. You're not making up ground going 6 wide in a 5.5 turf sprint. I know I'm making excuses, and the horse is 9-2, so I don't have to make that many, but I just think he makes sense. So I talked about those 3. I included the 10 as well, so I'll let Aaron kind of take some other horses here. This is a tough group.
Yeah, I thought this was a pretty good group, but I am with everybody. I mean, it seems like this one might be 3-2 by the time it goes off because everybody seems to like the one. I put the 1 on top as well, so I'm with everybody. I did put the 10 Digital Future second. I mean, I think you just see a pattern here where this horse is pretty solid. Moved to the turf and finished second a couple times, real close at Belmont. Went up to Saratoga and won, and now back here at Belmont. I think this horse makes a lot of sense. I was surprised you didn't use the 9 Scotchatory. It just feels like we always use this horse, and we always talk about this horse on our shows because he just seems to run on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday every time he's entered. I got to go back to him one more time here. I think he makes sense. I think he can kind of stalk the pace for the outside post. Last time out at Saratoga over an off the turf event over the dirt, this horse looked really good. I almost thought, man, they might throw that horse into a dirt race next. So, but anyway, I think the horse is always good for a good effort. Especially when sprinting. You know, the one race you look on these past performances here lately was a mile drawn out. I don't think the horse wants to go 2 turns. You look at the 6 and the 7 furlong races, even the 5.5 last time. Horse is pretty sharp. So I think Scotchatory was a horse I really wanted to get involved there. Dennis, before I move on with my 4th horse, Dennis said, any thoughts about the 7 hitting the board? I feel like Gins and Tens, that's kind of a horse that shows up from time to time that we talk about as well. No, I didn't give that horse much of a chance.
So there are scratches. I believe the 7 is scratched.
Did the 7 come out? Because it's still not up on Equibase officially. So is the 7 out?
So I'm going to read the scratches through the first 3 races, and I'll keep it up here for the 9th. In race 6, we have the 4, which I'll read the name off. That's Sidekick. That was a Shug McGahee first-time starter. In race 7, we also have the 4, which was Violent Point, a horse that I was actually interested in. And then in race 8, so this race that we're talking about, 3, MTO, Gandy Dancing. The 6, Risk Profile and MTO. The 7, Gins and Tins. And the 8, Montauk Daddy, who I actually had on top. So 3, 6, 7, and 8. So that adjusted my ticket as well. Made it even a little bit more difficult because I liked Montauk Daddy. Yeah, so Mike Somich from potentially his 9th Twitter / StreamYard account now. He's racking them up. 3, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so that's what's out. So hopefully Equibase can get that to us before the last race, so I don't have to read them out loud. But yes.
Yeah, I guess I don't know why Equibase doesn't have it out. A little bit later post time probably is the reason.
2 p.m. today. So so I guess that's why.
And like Dennis said, he's talked about a horse twice on the chat here. We're getting ready to bring up, and they both have scratched. So that's an interesting theory. Now, I've never really given much detail to this. I think Cowan is a horse that I think of that like we see a lot and then gets scratched a lot. Mm-hmm. You ever, maybe it's an interesting talking point, maybe not. We can skip through it if you don't think it is, but does that ever like ring like, oh, this horse has been scratched 4 times. Now they're finally running. Like, does that ever like ring a bell to you as an alarm? Or do you think they're just always waiting for the right spot, or do you just not care? like any answer in racing, it depends is always the answer. Like there's a lot of people that want that on Twitter, especially that just have one thing. It's one thing. It has to be black or white. And in racing, it just kind of depends. If it's a claimer and it's been scratched 4 times, yeah, something's probably wrong with that horse, and they do have vet scratches. They'll designate those during your scratches as well if you keep track of that. But if it's a stakes horse and they're trying to find a spot and they just didn't like where he drew, and then 4 or 5 days later it's in another stakes, then no. So it just kind of depends on the situation. But I think I think we all can kind of be honest with ourselves. In the claiming ranks, those horses, they might be a little skeptical about how healthy they really are. So if you see one that keeps scratching, they keep trying to enter, that's usually a bad sign. So it depends. But sometimes it's just I'm looking for a spot. Sometimes it's we can't get this horse to the track.
For me personally,
This is a good point here.
Yeah,
Ward does it. He scratches all the time, so it doesn't bother you as much.
Yeah, I was gonna say outside of him that it would bother me a lot, and the reason why at some point, this isn't, again, you're not a big harness racing fan, and neither am I. I find it incredibly boring. But what I do know is those horses run every week. At some point, the longer you wait and the more spots and the more opportunities you miss, unless it's a grade 1 type of horse and you're just waiting for, or even a stakes horse, like an allowance horse, like you can find these spots more often than not. The more times you wait, the less bullets you're going to fire. So at the end of the day, it's like winning the Heisman. Yeah, you can win the Heisman being undefeated, but if you're only going to throw 10 passes, you're not going to win it. You got to throw more bullets. You got to be out there. It's always a bother to me. I've never done the math, by the way, of certain horses that seem to get scratched more than others. I just thought that was an interesting topping point because Dennis brought it up about the 7.
No, I think it was for sure. Yeah, I think
that does bother me. And you know what the crazy thing is, and I think you'll agree, like a horse like Cowan sticks in my mind because it happens a lot. If like I didn't write it down, but I just know, like, okay, there's a solid chance Cowan's not going to run.
Yep.
If that happens where you notice a horse isn't going to run, that means it's happening more often than you think, probably. Yep. So that's just something to keep in mind. Are there any other horses? Oh, I just want to talk about the 9.
There's one more horse that we've gotten sidetracked. There is one more horse I haven't talked about that I put on the ticket on 4th. That's the 4 Colton's Command. Now you may look at it and say, well, the 5 beat the 4 last time out, so why are you doing that? I just think today there may be kind of a pace meltdown in this race. There's a lot of horses that have early speed here. I like that Rosario got back aboard Colton's Command today. I think obviously, Rosario on a closer on the turf, I don't think I need to explain that that's usually a good thing. I'll emphasize usually. But I think with a little more pace today, the 4 could kind of come running late and kind of just mow them down because it's set up well. So that was the other one I used that I hadn't talked about there yet.
So I want to be really nice. I'm in a good mood. I'm in a very good mood. The problem with the 4 and pace meltdown, I agree completely. That horse doesn't get borderline at 21-1. He's not winning. The problem with a turf sprint, it's not that there's a lack of talent. I forgot there was a name of a horse. It's kind of the keep me in mind factor, but not really. It's a horse at the claiming ranks. It was a Linda Rice horse. I knew people that own the horse, and it's like you have a closer, and if you put him going longer, it inhibits his ability to close because the early fractions are much slower. Then you put him in the sprint distance, and he's so far back he can't make up the ground, and it's just kind of like oh shit, what do we do with this horse?
Yep,
that's kind of like where I am with the 4. It's kind of like oh shit, we put him in turf sprint because he's best closing, but then he's so far back he can't get there. You get what I'm saying? So it's kind of like what do we do other than drop him in class? I've just kind of seen this horse at this level. I don't even care about him finishing 3rd. Like I just look at the running style and I say he's got to basically pick off every horse. That's just kind of where I am. It has nothing to do with his talent. I actually do think he's talented. It's not a matter of that. It's just like we see him break from the gate, off a step slow, blocked, 1 pace. And then he won, back at Gulfstream. I don't know. It just seems like, again, he's going to have to pick off too many horses, even though he might be the most talented horse in the race. He might actually.
Let's talk about one more horse. We've got a couple of comments on before we move on. Our Stephanie says, FYI, David Aragona and Sterling like the 2 horse here. I just don't see it. And then Charles also chimes in and says, strange to see Paco on the 2 here today. Maybe a price. I never considered this 2. I don't know if they're looking and saying, okay, getting back to the turf, and really didn't run bad on the dirt, but got beat by really nice horses. I don't know, Ricky. What do you think of the 2 rejected again?
So Paco Lopez, he's up here because I can't believe I'm saying this. He's got mounts all over the place this weekend. He rides at Monmouth, so he's gonna be. I can't believe I'm actually saying this. He's riding at Belmont, the Meadowlands, which is not that far. You can make that drive very quickly because the Meadowlands is a harness track, but they have turf racing from Monmouth for a few weeks. Then he's scheduled. Oh, it's not even that. He's scheduled to run in the Woodward with Code of Honor. Now he's also scheduled to ride at Churchill Downs. I've never seen anything like this. Now, he obviously can't be in all those places, but I think it's more so because of the Meadowlands thing. He's up here this weekend, and Aaron knows, I'm sure I don't know if he's gotten a chance to look at all the stakes races, but I'm sure he has. You have riders all over the country this weekend. Santa Anita, Churchill, as they open up tomorrow. Santa Anita, Churchill Downs, and Belmont. It gives Paco an opportunity to ride. They did not bring Paco Lopez to ride this horse. That's what I'm getting at is for this. I can't see it. I really can't.
Well, just to jump in, our Steffi says he chatted with David Aragona. He likes the cutback and back to the turf, and he still can't see it at all. The cutback and on the turf, I can kind of see that point. Because the races on the turf weren't too bad. Well, they weren't great actually, but they were going longer. And then we cut him back and went to the dirt, and we ran better. And now we're going to cut him back, but now it's the turf. It's something we really haven't seen from the horse, so you could probably say that's an unknown. But I'm going to have to be pretty good to win this race. I think this is a good field.
Well, it's interesting that we have commentary because David Aragona has this horse at 12-1. The scratches are officially out, by the way, if you want to check Equibase, just for anyone interested. I think you can make a case for a lot of horses in this race, to be quite honest with you. I can't see it with the 2. I just want to talk about the 9 since you brought up the 9 and why I didn't use that horse.
Okay.
The race last time out was a race taken off the turf, 5 furlongs, 5.5 on the dirt. I don't really have much interest in that. With that being said, I'm not entirely sure what this horse is best at. Now, it's possible he could still win here. What are his morning line odds? Because I have this printed out, downloaded without.
He is morning line odds of 6-1.
Fair price. That's extremely fair. I would have said I'll consider the horse somewhere between 8-1 and 9-1. 6-1 is very fair. Very, very fair. So if you like that horse, I just like some that are better. Because at this level, last time 2 starts back on the turf wasn't very good, and that's what we're going to be seeing here. It's weird, these allowance races, based on where they've run, they can go in different spots. I don't mind. I wouldn't be surprised if that horse won. I just think they're horses that are a little bit better.
Yeah, I just have a hard time going away from him. He just seems to be so consistent, and it's just a horse I like to play. He definitely brings it when he's running at this distance or sprint distances, I should say. So, all right, let's go on though. We got to go on to the 9th race. We're still on the turf here. $40,000 claimer going a mile and 16th to finish us up. for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and upward, which have never won 2 races. You go 2 deep here. I go very deep here. I went 8 deep. So I guess I'll let you talk about your 2 and 7 there, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah. So for the record, again, I'm not looking at morning line odds, but I assume I have the 2 top choices according to morning line.
Yeah.
Okay. The 2 Apurate, I really take a lot of pride in knowing horses' names. That's the biggest. I might not be right about everything, but I do take pride in that. So I'm going with Apurate. This horse is supposed to win by 100. I'm sorry. I mean, going from Colonial Downs in a stakes race, I know that was a state-bred stakes race, 9x19, fine, stalked and faded, no big deal. The half was 46-4. That's extremely fast, by the way, for Virginia bred. Never seen Virginia bred stakes horses with David Cohen. Then the one prior to at Monmouth, that race is supposed to be better too. Why do you see Flavian Pratt? Well, Pratt was aboard on Haskell Day, excuse me. So he was there that weekend. That was opening weekend. I was with Aaron, I believe, on that day. That was opening weekend, or maybe you had left or for the weekend. You were there like Thursday and Friday, whatever. But then even then, like those allowance races at Belmont, Aqueduct, the allowance optional claiming, like Gulfstream, like all those races are better than this one. If this horse has any talent at all, literally, he's going to win by 5. The other one, I'm using the 7, second by a nose last time out. And to be quite honest, she was supposed to win, right? I mean, into the top of the stretch, second by a length, and only you had second by a nose. You're supposed to win there. I don't see any other horses that can beat this one. Now, I know you used a bunch, and if you're not going to just use the 2 and 7, you have to use a bunch because, like, I'm just picking random numbers. I'm not sure how much worse the 6 is than the 12 or the other way around. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just think they're a bunch of crap, to be quite honest with you. Like, the 2 is here to me. The 7 is a cut below, and then I have a bunch of crap. So if you don't trust those, I'm with Aaron. You go as many deep as you want. I'll ask you before you break them all down. You could break them all down or do whatever however you want. Is it more so because you're just hoping that this thing blows up and you could see it and you just have a hunch? Or do you really just not trust the 2 and 7? And it could be a combination of both.
I don't trust either one of them. I really don't. And I just think it is a situation where it's a weird, race that could produce a price here. There's always one of these, it seems like, in the sequence. And I don't like the drop in class for the 2. Obviously, this horse, needs a drop, but this is a pretty significant one here. And that has me a little bit worried. The 7, I could see a little bit more. But I don't particularly trust that 7 horse very much either. So yeah, I really spread out and went everywhere. And you're right. I don't think I need to really break down these horses all that much. It's just a situation where, well, if you're going to start adding horses, you better go pretty deep. So I went 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The only one that I think I could probably do without the 6. That may be one that I could. If you could convince me to add a horse somewhere else, I might drop the 6 here. But I thought second off the layoff might be interesting for the 6 horse. Stretching out a distance for the first time, a horse that does have a distance pedigree. I don't know, that's kind of a sneaky horse to throw on there. Englehart has been known to win with prices here on the NYRA circuit a lot. And I also just thought, Englehart could run this horse at Finger Lakes and the horse would probably be like 2-1 some spots. So here we are in this one. So yeah, I just went super deep here, and I'm hoping to catch a price and beat this 2 horse.
So I'm gonna tack on to what you just said. I can't convince you of any other horses that I really like. So let's start there. I'm still stuck on maybe throwing that 2 in there just to cover my bases in that early race to kick off the pick 4.
Yeah.
With that being said, your ticket pops up as a $48 ticket.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think it's only a $6 difference if you took the 6 out.
Right.
There's no point in not, you know what I'm saying? Like in not doing that. So I completely agree. I don't have anyone you should add, but I also agree that taking one horse away, like you'd be really kicking yourself if that horse won.
Yep.
How many horses are you not using?
Let's see. I did not use the 1. So the 1, the 4, the 5. That's 3, 1, 4, 5. I'm trying to sort through these scratches.
Yeah, it's a little difficult to sort through them. That's why I'm happy you're doing it, not me.
Yeah, I'm trying to find. I used the 11, 12. Looks like I only didn't use 3 horses.
Now, I'll ask you out of courtesy.
No, I don't want to add any more. And I don't subscribe to the fact that if you use all, like 8 of them, you got to use all of them.
No, I wasn't even going to ask you that theory because I know you don't. I was just going to ask you, and I guess maybe you already answered the question. Would you be kicking yourself if one of the others did win? Okay, so yeah, that's like for me, because they're only $6, I would. But I understand where you're coming from. If they just don't make any sense to you, then I wouldn't use them either. I just, for another $18, I personally would. I'm just throwing that out there for people that maybe do subscribe to that theory.
Well, and I hate when Andy Sterling tweaks the scratches and then the Equibase comes out with them. The 8 horse is scratched on time form. Hold on, let me see here. Yeah, the 8 is now out, so I can take one of my horses out because I used the 8. Okay. So I'll update that for everybody right now. I don't think that horse was scratched on Sterling's thing. Maybe it was, and I just didn't see it.
I could look, but there's really no point.
There's no point. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we just missed it, or maybe I missed it. I didn't repeat them out because I said they were scratched already. Yeah, it doesn't really make that much of a difference. I'm going to add that too. I've been thinking about it.
Okay.
It's not really something that I'm not going to mark this down as Aaron Halterman convinced me.
Yeah.
I'm going to mark this down as I just don't want to lose right away. So I've updated it. It's another $12. The best way to describe how your multi-race sequences change, and I'm going to do this very quickly for everyone. I'm going to do a little math lesson. When you have 3 horses in a race and it's $36, 36 divided by 3 is 12. If you want to make it 2, you subtract 12. If you want to make it 4, you add 12. That's why I asked Aaron in the last race how many his was. His was 8, which is now down to 7. It was 48 divided by 8. So it's $6 to just add, you know what I'm saying? So it's just that quick math lesson. Yes, there are multi-race ticket wager calculators, hence racingdudes.com. You can do that as well. If you just wanted the quick mental math, that's how we got there to add that. Just wanted to throw that in there.
Good news, Equibase adds the scratches as we're getting ready to finish the show. So that's
yeah. The only reason I knew is because it was under the race day changes. I guess it took a few minutes to get. I don't know. Yeah, they're messing up. They're messing up. But
yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap up here. You read off your ticket. I'll read off mine, and then I'm going to quickly play a little game with you on the 9 Breeders' Cup races, the challenge races. So you go ahead and summarize your ticket there.
We're playing a game. Okay.
Yes.
I just went 1, 2, 3, and 8. Again, I did not include the 2 when we first started, but I'm gonna do it. Hopefully I get the best price, which I believe is the 1 morning line. Right now it's 6 to 1. 1, 2, 3, 8. I just hope one of them gets home. Race 7. I'm with Aaron. The 2 is supposed to win, but there are a few not question marks about the 2 necessarily, but question marks about ceilings with the 6 and 7. So I wanted to get the 6 in there as a price, and the 7 going to be getting a fast main track for the first time. Thought that was interesting. Into race 8, I went 1, 5, 10, and 11. Maybe this horse, Perfect Munnings, is just going to run everyone off the screen. It's possible the way we're talking about them. But there are others that make sense as well. Some in form. For like example, the 10 Digital Future facing winners for the first time. That's interesting as well. And the final race, I'm putting all my eggs into the Apurate basket. I mean, coming out of some of these allowance races or the stakes race for Virginia breds at Colonial Down, just kind of makes sense that this drop is, to me, is a drop of more of a, he's not good enough to win an allowance. We're just going to drop him in for a tag and see what we can get for her at this point. With that being said, it's 4x3 by 4x2. It's a $48 ticket.
Kevin O says, wait, where's the $250 ticket that I see on Twitter all the time? I don't know what that means. Maybe explain that one. I don't know what that means.
I don't know.
Yeah, not sure. All right, pick 4 for me, $42 ticket today, 238 in the first leg. Going to single the 2 up in leg number 2. Let's hope that 2 can get home. 1, 4, 9, and 10 in leg 3, and then 2, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, hoping for a price in the last $42 ticket. I think that's about right. I think this thing could pay pretty decent today. There's some tricky spots here, but overall, I went $42 ticket. You went 48. I think that's about right for how you want to play it today. So, all right, let's wrap it up here with now. Listen, we're gonna play a game. All right, Ricky, I'm gonna pull it up now. We're gonna talk about the 9 Breeders' Cup Win and You're In events coming up on Friday and Saturday. But we're going to start Saturday at Belmont. We're going to keep the Belmont theme. What I want from you is a winner of the race, and will that horse be competitive at the Breeders' Cup going forward?
Okay, I just need of where we're going to start first.
So Belmont Park on Saturday. We're going to just go in order here. So race 4 is the Miss Griot Stakes.
Okay, so Belmont Park. Okay, race 4, I'm ready. I just want to know where we're starting.
Okay, so who do we got in the Miss Griot Stakes? Just the winner, and then will that horse be competitive? Meaning, do you think the horse can hit the board, let's say, at the Breeders' Cup?
So, I went with the 6. I'm going to go with McCulloch. I think I said that properly. I think this horse can be extremely competitive. But there's another horse that it's funny we're talking about. I think the 4 Kinchin is even more interesting. Chad Brown doesn't do this often, if you guys don't know. Lost on debut and now going to be running here. I think both of these can be competitive, to be quite honest with you. McCulloch, I'm already convinced will be. Kinchin does have to win. But if you're just asking me for the winner, McCulloch, and I do think she will be competitive at the Breeders' Cup.
Okay, so you kind of followed directions. You went off a little bit, but McCulloch, and yes, we do think she's going to be competitive. That was the answer there. When Ricky goes on, I'll summarize what he said. How about that? If he does, I
just thought that was interesting because Kinchin hadn't won a race, but it shows up in a stakes. So.
All right, race 8, the Champagne. This is a really smart field. Smart. That's a weird way to describe it. This is a very good field. A field of 6. We got some potential superstars in here. Who's winning, and will they be competitive at the Breeders' Cup? Yeah,
I'm going to take your smart and double down with wit, because to have wits is always a good thing, to have some wit. I think Wit's going to win, but you're right. This is stacked. I think he's not only is he going to be competitive, if he wins here, he's probably going to be the favorite, to be quite honest with you, or at least vie for favoritism based on, what we see at Keeneland. I'm not ready to say lock. I wasn't going to get into this, but just because of the comment, just because he breaks so poorly. That's why I just won't say lock. I do agree. If he wins, he'll be competitive, and that's all you're asking for. So I'm going to go with he wins here and he's competitive.
Very interesting spot for Witt. I think he's got a shot, no question about it. I don't even know if this is a win and you're in event or not. I don't think this one is it? I can't remember. There's so many of them.
I'll pull it up. We could talk about it, but then I'll.
Go ahead and give it here. I'll pull it up. Go ahead and give me your thoughts on this one. It's race 9, the Belmont Turf Sprint.
Yeah. Oh, God. This is really tough. I think Back to His Roots is going to win. Hadn't seen this horse and ran second to Pulsate. I always like horses that shows a really good race after such a long layoff. And went in this race last year in October 4th, came back, ran in the Lucky Coin and was really, really solid. I don't think he's going to be competitive. I don't know if this is a Breeders' Cup race or not. It's not probable. My guess is it's not, but if it's
not, yeah.
If it's not, I don't think he's going to be competitive. But I think, to be honest, I would have been saying that anyway. So
It should be, though, I think. I'm going to start a petition. By the way, the first one we talked about, not a Breeders' Cup win in your hand either. So
well, you're failing your own game. I'm doing what you've asked, and you're failing your own game.
I don't understand why these races aren't. I've been surprised with this. Let's go to Santa Anita. I know some of these are. So we'll go to Santa Anita.
Yeah, they're a lot, like all of them are.
Yeah, so Santa Anita, I will go down here. We're going to go Friday at Santa Anita. That's the Speakeasy Stakes. Now, this is a Breeders' Cup win and you're in for the Juvenile Turf Sprint. Field of 7. All right, where are you going here, and will they be competitive?
I believe I put the 4 on top. Don't quote me. I put either the 4 or 5. I think I put Forbidden Kingdom, switching surfaces. But I do think either of them, no matter who I picked, I use both on tickets for the record. I think they're both going to be competitive. I truly do. So just to answer the question overall, I think they both would be, but 99% sure I put Forbidden Kingdom. I'm going off the cuff here. I'm all over the place. So Aaron put me in a weird spot here. I'm going Friday, Saturday, switching toes. They're both going to be competitive, but I put Forbidden Kingdom on top.
All right, let's move on to the Chandelier. Another Breeders' Cup win and you're in. This one for the juvenile fillies. Field of 7 here. Grace Alder, big favorite at 9-5. Is that where you're going?
Yeah, I put Grace Adler. Is this a win and you're in as well?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I think she's special. Based on the morning line odds, she's 9-5. She's already proven she could beat. She's already proven that she can beat horses. Like Ain't Easy hasn't proven that. Electric Ride hasn't proven that. And she keeps extending now. She went from like 5.5 to 7, now going to 1 mile and a 16. I'm not sure anyone can really run with her, to be quite honest. And she'll be competitive if she comes out of this one well, as a 9-5 Baffert. The juice might be loose on the West Coast.
We'll see how these Baffert horses run as we approach the Breeders' Cup and into next season. All right, the American Pharoah, it's the last Breeders' Cup winning you're in on Friday at Santa Anita for the TVG Juvenile. Obviously, field of 7 here. Baffert loaded again. Do we have another Baffert horse picked on top here?
Well, you have 3 of 7 enter. The other one, Rockefeller, is 6 at the 6 is 3-1. I think the 1 is going to win, the Corniche. I don't think he's going to be competitive. Really? I have a feeling that these 2-year-olds on the East Coast are going to be much, much better, personally, come Breeders' Cup time. Now, that doesn't mean he wrote, like, what would your definition of competitive be? Like top 3, or just run a race where, like, how do I define competitive?
It's almost like I told you. Will they fit the board in the Breeders' Cup? Will they? Who's going to win, and then will that winner hit the board in the Breeders' Cup?
No, I do not think any of the winners will win. Any of these, whoever wins here, I do think the 1 will win, but I do not think he will hit the board. I think it'll be a short price and not hit the board.
All right, that's very interesting because I think if Corniche wins that race, he might be the favorite at the Breeders' Cup. So definitely interesting to see what happens with him. All right, we're going to Santa Anita. We're going to Saturday. Are you capable and ready to do that?
I'm definitely capable. I just need like 30 seconds.
We'll give him 30 seconds as I introduce what's happening here. The Santa Anita Sprint Championship is where we'll start. That's going to be race 8 on Saturday at Santa Anita. Obviously, a Breeders' Cup winning you're in for the sprint. Field of 6. Where are we looking here?
I had a really tough time deciding between Dr. Skivel and CZ Rocket. I did put Dr. Skivel on top. I think he'll be competitive. Now, it's interesting. He's going to be facing older horses again. I'm just a little concerned. I think his form is like that Silver State form. I don't know how good he really is, but he's just in the best form right now. And CZ Rocket hasn't won in a long time. Flagstaff is. I think they're all competitive. Like, I think this is a preview of what we're going to see in a month or so, right? Just a little over a month. I think all 1, 4, and 5 are all going to be competitive at the sprint race if they all make it there.
All right, the Rodeo Drive is a Breeders' Cup win, and you're in for the Longines Turf. Or the Maker's Mark Filly and Mare Turf. A field of 9 here. You know, I think European/New York horses will kind of dominate the headlines as far as the Breeders' Cup goes. But who are you picking on top, and will that horse be able to compete in that race?
Yeah, I went with Going to Vegas on top. The only reason I think she could be competitive, to your point, is just because she'll be able to show speed. Like, she'll be in the mix early on. I don't know if she's going to be able to actually stack up, like talent-wise. Can she maybe hold on for third? Maybe. I don't think she's quite good enough, to your point. The New York horses are better, and whatever Europeans come over are better. But just because she'll be probably first around the first turn, maybe makes her competitive. I don't think she's going to be good enough. I even if she wins here convincingly, she still might be 20-1 in that race. So
yeah, I think you're right on that one. All right, awesome. Again, the final Breeders' Cup winning in we're going to talk about here at Santa Anita. It's a Breeders' Cup winning in for the Classic, obviously. Field of 8. You've got Tripoli, who won the Pacific Classic. Idol was a big winner last time we saw him way back at Santa Anita's meet. This is Medina Spirit. You got the quote-unquote Derby winner, who I told Magic I have no idea what's going to happen in this race. This is a mess, in my opinion. But I'm not asking myself. I'm asking you. Who's winning this one?
Everything in my heart tells me to pick Tis a Magician. Everything in my heart. I'm going to be logical here. I think Medina Spirit, and here's why.
Oh, boy.
Tis a Magician, I think, just wants longer. And I even put this in my write-up, like 9 furlongs just doesn't seem long enough for him.
Yeah.
Like it has not, you know what I mean? Like, I don't like Medina Spirit. I want that horse to lose, but that's not what I'm doing here. And that's not what I'm doing when I put tickets together.
Yep.
Tripoli, I want nothing to do with, for the record. Like, Tripoli is like Maracuja to me. Like, no interest. Idol, I don't know. I mean, Idol's decent when he's good when he runs his best race. I'm really rooting for Tis a Magician because I did put him and Medina Spirit on tickets, but I do think Medina Spirit is going to win, and he has to be competitive. The juice is better on the West Coast than it is anywhere else. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, on talent, he's going to probably be somewhat competitive, but he'll be sitting behind Nick Sko anyway. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and that leads me to the last thing. I'm not going to bring them up on the screen, but because they're not winning your end races. But Nick Sko is back in the Lucas Classic today, or this weekend at at Churchill Downs, and also Bo Liam is in the ACAC at Churchill Downs, a horse that's been super impressive for Asmussen. So, what are you going to do with these horses? Nick Sko, is he a single? Bo Liam, is he a single?
Well, I'll start with the first question because I try to pay attention. I think Nick's Go is as close to a single as I've seen this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not true. Gamin's been more of a single when I've seen her run. But okay, so like for the boys on the dirt, I mean, who's going to compete with him? It's not even a matter of him because I still hate to say it, but there is a race in him that makes him vulnerable. It's happened before. It's just like, who's going to do it? Which one of these other 5 morons is going to do it? The Bo Liam race. So yes, to answer the question, Nick Sko is more of a single.
Yeah.
I'm going to single. I think Bo Liam's going to get tested. Now, that doesn't mean he's not going to win. I'm not saying that. I think in a pick 6, which I'll revise based on scratches, I'm pretty sure I singled. But in the pick 4s and 5s, I'll double check right now. I did not. Do you feel the same? I know this game's not for you.
Mm-hmm.
But did you do the same? Did you go a little bit deeper with the Bo Liam race? Because I assume you singled Nick Sko. I could be wrong, but I assume you singled. Or you're going to single once you put it together. Do you think Bo Liam's vulnerable? Because I personally think he's vulnerable.
He's doing something he's never done before. And I think that is why you're going to look at it and say, well, maybe we can try to beat this horse. It's going to be a big favor doing something he's never done before. He's never been around 2 turns. So I think that's what a lot of people are going to see. He's facing older horses. That's another thing that people are going to look at and say, okay, maybe so. I mean, I think it's interesting, the spot here. This is not where I thought this horse would show up. That being said, yeah, I do think he's the best, but I am going to go a little bit deeper here. And yeah, Dennis says, isn't Bo Liam the only Asmussen sprinter now since Yopan is out? Maybe Jackie's Warrior tries the mile. No, I think it's going to be the opposite. I think they're putting Bo Liam in this mile race so he can try the mile. Jackie's Warrior definitely going to go 6 furlongs. I think they're seeing, Dennis, if Bo Liam can get a 2-turn mile here, because that's, or this is, I'm sorry, this is not a 2-turn mile, but to get a mile here, just to see if maybe they can try the mile at Del Mar where it is 2 turns. So that's what I meant to say. So I don't know. I think that's the logical thing. Hey, he can't beat Jackie's Warrior, or maybe we don't want to face Jackie's Warrior, so let's try to win another Breeders' Cup race.
Yeah, I mean, is Brian Hernandez from okay, so this is where I'm going to push back. If Bo Liam is what a lot of people think he is, and I'm not ready to put him in that category. Maybe you are. I'm not going to speak. It doesn't really matter who's riding. I'll be quite honest with you. Like,
yeah,
Jackie's Warrior life is good. Like, as long as the horse isn't a fat slob like me, as long as the rider isn't a fat slob like me, the horse is going to win. Like, you know, like, it shouldn't really matter. Claiming races, allowance races, maiden special weights, different situation. But if he is that good, Aaron, do you subscribe to that? What I'm saying, like, if he's that good, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm not worried about Brian Hernandez. If that's the question, no, I'm not. I think he'll be fine.
Yeah.
I'm more worried about, hey, you got to do stuff that you haven't done yet. Let's see. You know, this is another test for you. And if you're 1 to 5 and you got 2, you know, or 1 mile race and have to face olders, I don't know. We'll see. I think Rushy in here is interesting, the 11 horse.
I agree. I didn't put Rushy on tickets, but that is one that if he were to win, might be kicking myself a touch just because I'm kind of with you on him. Now, I do want to ask you a question since you brought it up. Mm-hmm. What is too short on Bo Liam? What price do you say, oh, God, I want no part of it? Or do you just think he's going to win anyway and you don't care?
Too short to do what is the question.
Oh, I didn't think I was going to get a question back. Too short for a win bet, let's just say. Because I think with a multi-race, or how about this? Too short that if you're going to play multi-race, I'll throw it either way. If you're going to do like a big pick 3 where it's like, I'm going to try to maybe beat them, or maybe I have to play like a $10 pick 3 or a $5 pick 4 where it's so short that to make some money, I'm going to have to really press that opinion. Either way, however you want to look at it.
Honestly, I think as far as a win bet, you might as well forget it because you're not. I think he's got to be like above even money because of the factors I was saying. Like, you know, you look at his race two back at Saratoga when he came off the maiden at Churchill Downs and then went up to Saratoga and he was even money. Well, I mean, he was going a distance he liked. He looked like a standout on paper. I could choke down even money, but you know, this race, he's going to be like a 3 to 5 type horse, I would say. And I just don't think a win bet is I would not advise that on a horse that's going to be 3 to 5 doing a lot of different things. So, you know, I think the problem with him as far as the sequence goes, and again, so talk about this all the time, you got to read the sequence, right? So if Knicks Go wasn't in this, it wouldn't be as important to beat him. But with Knicks Go in it, it's pretty worthless if you're going to play Knicks Go and Bo Liam, unless you're going to play a straight ticket and the dollar amount's going to be $10, $20, right? So if you're going to play a ticket like we put on the show where we spread out here and I mean, you're probably going to have to either single one or the other and try to beat one or the other. That's just the simple fact of it.
I want to disagree with you, but I can't. Yeah. It's
because the problem is, even if you say you single them both, and even if you get the longest shot on the other 2 races, it's still not going to pay enough.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. I think this is one of those situations where it might be okay playing both. Like playing a hammer ticket and playing one of those longer and just hoping Bo Liam doesn't get home. But what I will say, and I don't know if you've ever deployed this strategy, if you want to play those sequences, I don't have it off the top of my head. I'm trying to look here. So they're both they're in the middle pick 5, starting in race 4. So that doesn't really help. So if you're just gonna, so let's just say you're playing the late pick 4, I would highly consider singling and not using Bo Liam.
Yeah.
And here's what I mean by that. You could play the hammer ticket where you're going 2 with whoever you want and then 10 and play that as a hammer ticket and then whoever you want in the 11th. And then also just not use Bo Liam because there are going to be other horses in there that if they upset, they're going to be big prices and you don't need Bo Liam on the ticket, right? So that's kind of what I would suggest. Now, I know it's a weird theory. The only theory, it's hard to come up with a theory because it's the late pick 4, right? Usually sometimes we've seen, there was a horse at the fairgrounds, not like I don't think it was Chubwagon. There was another one, that they were running like in the Derby City Distaff maybe, but it was like race 3. So it was early in the card. Like it didn't round anything out. I forgot the name of the horse. Someone can remind me. I forgot what it was. It was Australasia. That's the name of the horse.
Okay.
And a horse just kept going off at 3 to 5, but there wasn't much you can do about it because it was like race 3. So you just single in the middle of the pick 5. You know what I mean? Like here you have 2 legitimate singles, but we're both suggesting that it's vulnerable. So I would hammer and then not use in the other one personally and just throw more long shots. That's what I would do. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but we'll see.
The biggest takeaway I think from it is you cannot do the same thing every single time, no matter what. You have to read the sequence and adjust or analyze based on what you think that sequence is going to produce on that day. You know, if Bo Liam was in the 2nd race, let's say, and Nick's Go was in the 9th, well, you might be able to get away with singling them in both of their separate sequences, and if you believe you're going to get a price big enough in some of the other races. But when they're in the same sequence, you obviously have to adjust what you're doing a little bit. And it's kind of like, you know, there was an argument yesterday on Twitter about, you know, you gave 3 singles for the Breeders' Cup, and they're obvious, and that's not how you make money. And then you look at the Breeders' Cup with Golden Pal and Monomoy Girl and Gamine, and all those sequences paid huge, right? And so that was the argument. I was like, well, look what happened when you singled these horses to the Breeders' Cup last year, and like there were a few people that had hit tickets and were showing that. And he was like, yeah, but then if you do that on Travers Day, you're going to get killed. I said, exactly. On Travers Day, there were no surrounding races where the big favorites were in, and there were the surrounding races looked like big favorites were going to win. You're making my point exactly. You have to look at the sequence as a whole. Look at the 4 or 5 or 6 or 3, whatever sequence you're playing, and analyze, okay, here's Life is Good, and then here's Gamine, and then here's, you know, I don't remember exactly, Yalpon, I think, and Frenzy Fire or you know, whoever. Okay, that's not going to pay. Like we're not going to get long shots. So we need to go short, and we need to, you know, hit this for $10, $15, $20 ticket, right? And then you go to the Breeders' Cup, and it's like, well, here's a 12-horse turf mile, and I have no idea who's going to win. Here's a turf sprint or a sprint where I have no idea who's going to win. Oh, here's Monomoy Girl. Okay, we can hook onto her. And then here's a classic where 4 or 5 horses can win. It's not rocket science, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. Like, I'm not going to get into the Twitter thing yesterday, but I texted you and I was like, this is like this. So this is the problem when you get to horse racing. And I'll just sum it up by this, in my opinion, at least. Since this is an odds-based game where the public decides what the odds are, you get stuff like this on Twitter. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, because it's so opinion-based. Like a sports book, for example, it's like, these are the odds. It is what it is.
Yeah.
When you get to the odds, it's like, my opinion does mean more. My opinion, if you like Oklahoma getting points and I like Oklahoma giving points, I'm just making it up. It doesn't matter. These are the odds, and we could play either side. Mm-hmm. Our opinions really dictate what the odds are. So it really matters of how strong the opinion is. I'm just going to leave it at that. And that's why we kind of get into this weird thing on Twitter, and it's like I didn't even know what was going on until I saw it, and I was like, all right, this is like pointless. So.
Well, the Twitter thing is crazy because there's a growing group of people that believes the only way you can make money is to play against every single favorite. And it's like, I don't remember who it was. One guy was like, so last week in the park at the race at Parks, you play against Jackie's Warrior. It's like, that's stupid. Like I get playing as favorites. You have to be favorites to make money. I get it, but you don't have to play against every single one. I mean, if you get into a situation and it's like, well, this horse can't lose, then really you're just throwing your money away, And even if you beat the favorite, it doesn't mean you're going to get the other three legs, So if you want to beat him, maybe try to beat him in a single bet where you're not spending a lot of money. I don't know, but it's just crazy. That's just nope. There's one line of thinking. It's right. Everything else is completely wrong, and we're going to make everybody who doesn't subscribe to our one theory feel like shit. Everybody is an idiot but us in our group. That's what Twitter has become a lot of times in racing now.
The one thing that I will say, and I wish more people had this, it's the word restraint. If you don't like a favorite or you don't subscribe to playing favorites, then don't bet. It's very simple. It's very, very simple. You don't have to bet every race. You don't have to bet every sequence. Have some restraint. That's the only thing I'll say on that. Real quick. Who's Oklahoma playing this week?
Yeah, OU is at Kansas State this week.
No, Skylar Thompson, it looks like. So
yeah.
That would be interesting. I want to ask you this. It has to do with Oklahoma, but it also has to do with college football and football in general. You were at the game last week. It was one of the worst Oklahoma offensive performances. I didn't watch it live. I was not around. Mm-hmm. Do you subscribe to the people booing Spencer Rattler for the backup?
No.
Okay. And I agree with you. And here's why. If you're a true fan of the team, to me, I root for whoever's out there. Mm-hmm. It is what it is. Now, if Caleb Williams were to start this week, then I would root for him. And I wouldn't be, and if he stinks, I wouldn't be booing for him to come out of the game either. And that's why it wasn't an Oklahoma point. It was a sports point. It just happened to be with Oklahoma last week. And you texted me and you're like, these people are booing for a backup who, mind you, hasn't played.
Yeah, true freshman. Yeah.
It's not like it was the Tua Jalen Hurts thing at Alabama where Tua came on, but Jalen Hurts had won a lot of games and X, Y, and Z, and now Jalen Hurts, they're both NFL quarterbacks. But like, I'm with you. Like, I thought when you told me that, I was like, I want to see it. And then I saw it on TV and I was like, this is pretty disgusting.
Yep.
What you're also doing is you're pretty much saying Lincoln Riley is missing something. That's what you're saying. You're also criticizing the head coach and one of the best offensive play callers in the history of the sport. So yeah, I'm with you.
I told the people around me, I said, look, if Caleb Williams doesn't come out and start second half, it means that he's not ready to play. And we have to accept that because he knows a hell of a lot more about the situation than us idiots sitting up in the seat. Yeah, I thought it was terrible, the booing and the chanting. And I'm with you. It's like, listen, I'm not going to lie, and you know it. I'm not a huge Spencer Rattler guy. But at the same time, he's the quarterback at OU, and I don't think he's out there not trying. I think he's trying to get it done, and he's not playing well right now. Get over it. Like you're booing a 20-year-old kid. Like, is that where you're at with your life? I mean, come on. I mean, and it's okay to be frustrated and want the new guy. I think we all kind of did, but come on, let's get real here.
Patience. What if Caleb Williams isn't any better? The O-line stinks.
Listen, exactly. Obviously, he doesn't think Spencer Rattler is a big problem. By the way, he pulled him last year at the Texas game, so it's not like he hasn't pulled him before. So
right, and it's the same.
Trust him.
Yeah, I don't think we'll spend a final minute on this. I don't think Matt Nagy is the right guy for the job. I think it's new. He needs a new situation, and maybe Justin Fields needs a new coach. But maybe he was right, and maybe Justin Fields isn't ready either. I know the game plan wasn't good, but maybe he's just not ready either. Like, not every rookie quarterback is going to be Patrick Mahomes. Like,
let me jump in. Maybe he knows they're terrible, and he doesn't want to ruin this kid, because if that kid goes through more games like last week, he will ruin him. Like, people were mad. We're like, Andy Dalton starting. I can't believe it. I was like, if I was a Bears fan, I would be thrilled. Even if you think Matt Nagy's awful, how about we save Fields when you get a new coach? Then, like I wouldn't want Fields to have anything to do with this team right now.
I want to disagree, but you're right.
Like, I mean, what are you going to get out of it? I mean, this last week was embarrassing, and he just got wrecked last week against a defense who isn't very good or hasn't been so far.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're not wrong. Yeah. I mean, it's.
And again, I realize as a fan, you want to see your stud rookie play, and you're excited to see him play. But the other end of it is, man, that is a train wreck there right now.
Yeah, and maybe he knows the O-line so bad, but he won't. He just can't come out and say that publicly. No. is what it comes down to. But
no,
I'm gonna wrap us up. I'm gonna
wrap us up.
That's going to do it for us. We've been on for 80 minutes. Part of it is because we had a lot to get to. We did some stakes races, a brief football conversation, not just about Oklahoma, but more it's about support your team. Don't boo your team unless you're the New York Jets. Then you have every right to boo everything they do. If you don't like the hot dogs, boo. If you don't like the
to be fair, if you a professional team, that's a little bit different than somebody in college. But
that's fair. We didn't dive into that, but if you no holds barred with the Jets. If you want to boo the security guy, boo him. If you want to boo the parking attendant, boo him. The Jets are just disgusting. The Giants are trending that way as well. But we had some Breeders' Cup races that we talked about, some non-Breeders' Cup stakes races we talked about. This sequence here, we are not going to be on tomorrow. But with that being said, there is another show later, 2 shows, right? Magic Mike, 3 shows. Sorry.
Yep.
Magic Mike. I don't know what sequence they're covering. Do you know off the top of your head?
I do not know. But I know they'll be on normal time. And of course, I got to get off of here because we're 39 minutes away from Dudes Who Bet Sports, and then Blinkers off after Magic Mike. Yeah, so a lot going on today for sure.
Yeah, Blinkers off sometime between 6 p.m. and 1 a.m. Just come on for 7 hours. You'll figure it out then. Drink a lot so you don't feel like you're bored.
Yeah.
And next Wednesday, I believe Keeneland is open. Thursday. It's the week after that. The week. They're Friday?
They're open Friday. Yeah.
The week after, I believe they're on Wednesday. It's like I think it might be the Saratoga schedule where they start like on a third Friday and then they get into, I don't know, but we'll start doing those when those open up. Hopefully there's a track we can cover Wednesday as well, because we've only had, we'll hopefully there's some stakes or something. But that's going to do it for us. Maybe if Aaron and I by some miracle meet up in the Northeast this weekend, you'll hear about it. We'll talk about those experiences, but that's going to do it for us. Check all the action out at racingdudes.com for all horse racing and sports this weekend. If the sports specific, racingdudes.com/sports, or you can go to racingdudes.com and click the sports tab. It'll direct you to that page as well. There'll be plenty of free content, articles, picks, X, Y, and Z for all the Breeders' Cup races. After this weekend, we are officially into that Breeders' Cup mode. We're about a month away or so. So make sure you check all that out. But that's going to do it for myself and Mr. Halterman. He's got another show to do, 36 and a half minutes or so now. So we'll hop off here. Everyone enjoy the rest of your Thursday and the weekend as well, starting tomorrow, Friday afternoon, which would be October 1st as well. Santa Anita kicks off their meet tomorrow. So a lot going on. Check it all out at racingdudes.com. We will be back here hopefully next Wednesday with a card as well, breaking down what we saw, things like that. So everyone take care and enjoy the rest of your weekend.